What up? It's Brian the Illustrator, back to break down another vintage graphic for you guys. I told you a few videos ago the next graphic I was going to make was going to be based off of a photograph. That's still the plan. I'm waiting to hear back from a client who wants me to do a stadium graphic for them. Once they kind of give me direction on how they want the stadium to look, I'll go ahead and get that one done next, but I wanted to hold off on another photograph into a graphic until I hear back from them because I want to get that one knocked out. In the meantime, I am going to keep on building the Nifty 50 Wisconsin and Milwaukee collection. This one's going to be one of those similar to the last one. I'm doing a pun here. Jokes work in vintage tees, bad jokes, dad jokes, puns, all that shit works from vintage tees. I wanted to show you guys one that is primarily type based and doesn't have a ton of illustrated elements because I've been doing a lot of illustration for you. You're going to see me work through some problems in this one. I had an idea for what I was going to do. Usually how it works, I don't do sketches before I put my graphics together. I just kind of have an idea that pops into my mind and then I work it out in real time on the screen. This one gave me some headaches, gave me some problems. You're going to see me kind of deal with that and how I work through different issues as they come up. But I hope you guys like it. If you like my graphics, want me to make a graphic for your company, you can get in touch with me at brianthomascrooksllc@gmail. If you want this graphic in your wholesale collection, or if you want us to make any wholesale tees for your shop, you can get in touch with me at nifty50apparel@gmail. And then if you want to keep an eye on the entire Nifty 50 assortment, you can go to our website, nifty50apparel.com. That's nifty50apparel.com, and I hope you guys like this one. So like I said, this is going to be a primarily text-based graphic. I start off in my script archive, kind of trying to find out which one I want. I like this look. I'm going to modify whatever the script I pick for with this one. But I liked this Master of Comics. It's a little bit more sort of modern. It's not super vintage looking, but I kind of like the shape of some of the letter forms in here. And so this is the one I'm planning on starting off with to kind of build out the rest of the graphic here. Didn't like how that R and the D work together. So I said, you know what, scrap that. I know that I've got some others that are similar to it. Mustardo is another one that's kind of a more modern looking script. It's not super vintage classic. But I'm going to modify these letter forms anyway. And so this is where we're going to start off with this one. Ordinarily, I speed up the trace process here. I'm going to keep this one at normal speed so that you guys can see kind of my thought process and why this one didn't work the way that I thought it was going to. This is a short enough word anyway, but I wanted to build a tail on this one. When I did the Dirty Water graphic for the Red Sox, I put a tail on that and kind of showed you a high angle to go to on the tail. This one would work a lot better with the low angle. And I kind of like that little filigree that kind of, works on the back end of that C. And so I'm doing a little bit of a similar thing here overall. I'm going to add in some of those along the way. I didn't like how that one looked pointing to the back. So I'm going to try it going to the front and see if that might hit a little bit better. I think it does look a little better that way. And so I'm just kind of modifying the letter forms here. A lot of the times when I work with a script, I use it almost like it's just a basis for what I want to build. Like I told you guys in the last video, I came into design and illustration from graffiti in the first place, and so letter forms always speak to me. I can never leave well enough alone. I always want to modify, especially if it's a script. I want to change things around. I want to change angles, thicknesses. There's lots of little things that I think, can always be improved anytime you're working with a script typeface, and so that's kind of what I'm doing here on this one. And now here I'm really deviating from the original shape of that C, really kind of thickening out that lower end of it. I'm going to do the same thing on the other end and really kind of push those little swoops. I think those look nice in general. I like those a lot in a script typeface, but in this one, it's going to really echo again in the tail. And, like I said, I don't really work with sketches, so I'm seeing how I want this to look in my mind's eye and just kind of trying to translate that onto the screen. Takes a lot of tries. It's not something I'm expecting to get the very first time I do it. Things need to be changed and modified and massaged until they land you know, more or less where I want them to. And so you're going to see me kind of go over that same area multiple times to get the exact shape that I want. Alright, now here we're going to go ahead and build out that tail. I like a big round sort of bottom on these tails sometimes, especially if it's more of what looks like a 70s typeface than something from the 40s, 50s, 60s with a script. You saw this kind of look a lot in the 70s. Actually a typeface that I use sometimes called Canvas that looks like it's from, you know, mid-70s roller rink. But I really wanted to emphasize that rounded part on the end of the tail there, and so yeah, I'm trying to get it more or less like a circle. You want it to be really thick and kind of round and shapely. I'm looking at this right now and I'm saying, okay, the tail is okay. Still needs a little bit of fine tuning here and there. Like I said, I can't leave well enough alone, and I really have a vision for how this should look and feel, and if it's not there, I keep on working until I get there. So little fine tuning, little bits and pieces over and over again until I get more or less the look that I'm comfortable with here. As I'm looking at this right now, I'm seeing this and I see, okay, this isn't quite coming together the way that I want it to. You know, that little space there needs to be rounder to echo what I have going on in the tail. You know, I zoom out and I'm like, oh, you know what that looks like to me? Looks like that says turd. This is what happens with tunnel vision sometimes. You have an idea, you get working on the little individual bits and pieces, you zoom out and all of a sudden you have made a really fancy looking turd. It's supposed to be curd, y'all. For those who don't know, cheese curds are a really, really big deal in Wisconsin. A squeaky cheese curd, exactly what you're going for. I like mine fried, only battered. Do not bread my curd. I'm not an animal. But yeah, I looked at this thing after I was all done with it. I'm like, oh my god, I literally wrote turd in a very fancy script, and I could keep plugging away and try to fix it. I say no. We'll start all over again here because this is not what's up. So now I'm back in the script archive. I'm learning from my mistake. I'm looking around at some of these that are a little bit less dramatic, a little bit less decorated, and I think I might have found a winner here that I'm going to go with instead. And so at this point, you know, I'm doing the same thing again. There's Turd Part 2, but I'm going to go ahead and swap that out with Hello Youthin. And at this point, I am going to speed things up because this trace isn't quite as dramatic as the last one was. We're going to slow things down a tiny bit here so I can show you kind of building that tail again. I mean, there's probably a better way to do it where I like drop in an actual circle views as a guide. I just keep on going over it and over it until I like how it looks. The thick part of the tail there looks a little bit off on the angle, so I need to fix that a little bit, change that angle up. It's all fine tuning. It's little bits and pieces until you like how it looks. And you know what, y'all? That does not say turd. Now this is where I get in some more trouble. I had an idea for what I wanted to fit, how I wanted the text to lay out. I'm trying over and over again. Can I fit it inside the tail? Can I move it around? Can I wiggle it? All these things. Can I put it on a path and put it inside? None of these look right to me, and so I need to recalibrate my plan all over again and redo a whole new tail to fit that word in there, because otherwise the graphic was starting to look way too kind of clumsy and forced. This is a little trick I use a lot of the time. The word "the" can look kind of out of place. It's little, but it's important to a lot of the graphics that I make. I didn't want to have it underneath the bottom of the C, because then it reads like Turd V is the word. You don't want that to happen. But if I put it on the path on the outside of the letter C, it kind of blends in unobtrusively. I do the same thing with the Spirit of Detroit graphic that we have in our Nifty 50 Michigan collection. You just got to find, creative ways to elevate your graphic a little bit instead of doing the most obvious thing and just putting V on a flat line above the C you're right next to or something like that. Now we could be done here. This is a fine graphic. This looks just fine as is. This could go on a shirt like, as it is right now. I think it'd be okay. I don't leave well enough alone. I just don't. If there's ways I can modify it to upscale it a little bit, to elevate the graphic a little bit here and there, I'm going to keep on trying things until I'm satisfied with it. Like I said, this would go fine on a shirt. I do want to do a couple of other things to kind of elevate it and take it up another notch though. So we're going to add a drop shadow to it. Drop shadows, a lot of people feel like they're overused. I'd say they're poorly done too often is the problem. I like a drop shadow if you do it the right way, if you handle it properly. People don't usually do it the right way, and that's why they look kind of overdone. But this one, there's a right way and a wrong way, and I like how this one goes. State shapes are always kind of a nice flex on a graphic, as long as it's a fun shape. Don't give me Colorado, don't give me one of the Dakotas, one of those square shapes, but Wisconsin has a very sort of distinctive shape to it. I love how the state is shaped. It's very interesting to me. And so adding that on as a little smaller illustrated element works. If states have peninsulas, they're kind of hard to figure out sometimes. You want to make it look quite right, especially for those who live there, and so want to modify that a little bit. And now all that's left is to go ahead and put that behind my weathering layer, size it up right, put it behind the weathering layer, get my colors called out on the side of the artboard, and this one's done, quick. If I'm not doing a really dramatic illustration, the graphic comes together pretty fast. Even if I screw up the type really badly like I did in the beginning of this one, type doesn't take as long to fix as like a full illustration does, obviously. And so there you go, on navy blue. I love that 7527, kind of a cream instead of a stark white sometimes. Looks a little more vintage. 131 instead of 1235 for my gold there. Again, looks a little bit older and more vintage. And I think this one is all set and ready to go into production. And there we go, one more in the books. When I do launch a collection for a city, I like to go into it with at least like 6, 7, 8 graphics in the assortment. We have a couple so far. I have ideas for what other ones I want to do, so you'll see me making some more Wisconsin stuff and more Milwaukee things for Nifty 50. Most of my clients get their orders in the start of the month, so I should have some non-Nifty 50 things to work on for you as well, especially if I do hear back from my client about that stadium graphic and what direction they want me to go with that one. Those are cool. Stadium graphics, boy, they take a long time sometimes, and they're a lot of work, but they're really cool and they're done right, and I'm excited to show you guys that one. Again, if you like my graphics, you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is Brian_the_illustrator. If you want me to make some graphics for you, you can get in touch with me at brianthomascrooksllc@gmail. If you wanted this graphic or any other graphics for wholesale, you can get in touch with me at nifty50apparel@gmail, nifty50apparel@gmail. And then if you want to see our full collection, all the graphics that we're doing for Nifty 50 direct to consumer, you can go to nifty50apparel.com. I'll see you all next time.